Was I wrong for what I did? 2 days before Christmas, my ex-wife, Sarah, who had abandoned our family 8 years ago, showed up on my doorstep not alone but with a child I didn't recognize. The sight of her, older now, with lines of worry etched around her eyes, and this little girl, maybe 6 or 7, clinging to her leg, hit me like a physical blow. My heart, which I thought had long since hardened against her, seized up in my chest. What did she want? And more importantly, who was this child? Tell me honestly, would you have reacted any differently? Because in that moment, standing in the cold December air, with the ghost of Christmas past and a very real, very present stranger on my porch, I felt a rage I hadn't known since the day she walked out. Let me take you back to the beginning 8 years ago. I was happily married to Sarah. We had a beautiful daughter, Emily, who was just 7 at the time, a bright, bubbly kid with her mother's eyes and my stubborn streak. We had a comfortable life, not rich by any means, but we had enough. I worked hard as a carpenter, and Sarah was a stay-at-home mom, though she always had a restless spirit. She talked about wanting more, wanting to travel, to experience life beyond our quiet suburban home. I always thought it was just talk, a natural human desire for adventure, something we'd pursue together when Emily was older. I was wrong. The signs were there, I just didn't want to see them. She started going out more often, saying she was meeting up with old friends or taking art classes. I trusted her completely. Why wouldn't I? She was my wife, the mother of my child. Then came the day that shattered everything. I remember it vividly. It was a Tuesday. Emily was at school. I came home from work expecting Sarah to be there, maybe cooking dinner or reading in the living room. The house was silent, too silent. I called her name, no answer. My heart started to pound. I walked through every room, a growing dread tightening its grip on my stomach. Then I saw it. A note on the kitchen counter, short, impersonal, like a grocery list. "I'm leaving. I can't do this anymore. Don't look for me." That was it. No explanation, no goodbye to Emily, nothing. Just those cold, stark words. My world imploded. I called her phone, it went straight to voicemail. I called her family, they hadn't heard from her. It was as if she had simply vanished into thin air. When Emily came home from school, her innocent questions about where mommy was tore me apart. How do you tell a 7-year-old that her mother just left, that she chose to abandon her? I lied at first. I told her mommy had to go away for a little while for work, a vague, flimsy excuse. But as days turned into weeks and weeks into months, the truth became undeniable. Sarah was gone and she wasn't coming back. The next few years were a blur of grief, anger, and the sheer, exhausting effort of being a single parent. I had to learn everything. How to braid Emily's hair, how to manage her school projects, how to be both mother and father. There were so many nights I cried silently into my pillow, wondering what I had done wrong, what we had done wrong. Emily, bless her heart, was incredibly resilient, but the abandonment left scars. She became quieter, more withdrawn, always a little hesitant to trust. She stopped asking about her mother after a while, and the silence around Sarah's name became a heavy, unspoken presence in our home. I made sure she knew it wasn't her fault, that her mother's actions had nothing to do with her worth. We built a new life, just the two of us. It was hard, incredibly hard, but we found our rhythm. My parents were a huge support, helping out with Emily when I had to work long hours, offering emotional solace. We slowly healed, or at least, we learned to live with the gaping wound Sarah had left. I even started dadding again, cautiously, a few years later. Nothing serious, but it was a step towards believing in a future that didn't solely revolve around pain. I swore I would never let Sarah hurt us again. I built walls around my heart, thick and impenetrable, or so I thought. I often wondered where she was, what she was doing, if she ever thought about us, about Emily. But those thoughts were always tinged with bitterness, a protective reflex against the lingering hurt. I told myself I didn't care, that she was a ghost of a past I had thankfully moved on from. And then 8 years later, 2 days before Christmas, she was there, on my doorstep, with a child. My mind raced trying to process the image. The little girl with dark hair like Sarah's, but a timid shyness that reminded me of Emily when she was younger. Sarah looked worn, not the vibrant, carefree woman I remembered, but someone burdened by life. Her eyes, once full of a sparkling ambition, now held a deep, almost desperate sadness. David. She whispered, her voice hoarse, as if she hadn't spoken in a long time or was out of practice using my name. I just stared, unable to form words, unable to move. The cold wind bit at my exposed arms, but I felt nothing but a glacial shock. Emily was upstairs, probably playing video games, blissfully unaware that her past had just materialized on our porch. The little girl, seeing my blank stare, buried her face further into Sarah's coat. "Who is that?" I finally managed to croak out, my voice sounding alien even to my own ears, my gaze fixed on the child. Sarah flinched. She looked down at the girl, then back at me, her expression a mix of shame and resignation. "This is Lily," she said, her voice barely audible. She's my daughter, my daughter." The words hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. "Lily. Not ours, not mine, hers, with someone else." A fresh wave of anger, hot and visceral, surged through me, eclipsing the initial shock. So she left us, only to start a new family elsewhere. The injustice of it, the sheer audacity, was breathtaking. I looked at Lily again, truly looked at her. She was beautiful, innocent. It wasn't her fault. But her presence was a stark, painful reminder of everything Sarah had taken from us. So that's the situation I was in, and I had to make a choice. Here she was, after 8 years of silence, with a child looking utterly defeated, on my doorstep just days before Christmas. My heart was a battleground of conflicting emotions. The residual love I thought I'd buried, the searing anger, the protective instinct for Emily, and a strange, unwelcome flicker of pity for this broken woman standing before me. Before I tell you what happened next, I want you to pause and comment below what you would have done in my shoes. Would you have slammed the door, invited her in, demanded answers? I truly want to know what you would have done. I stood there for what felt like an eternity, the silence punctuated only by the distant sounds of Christmas carols drifting from a neighbor's house. Lily peeked up at me from behind Sarah's coat, her eyes wide with a mixture of fear and curiosity. It was that innocent gaze that finally broke through my anger just for a moment. This child, she was an innocent party in whatever complicated mess Sarah had created. "What do you want, Sarah?" I asked, my voice flat, devoid of any warmth. Sarah swallowed hard. I have nowhere else to go, David. My boyfriend, Lily's father, he kicked us out. He found someone else." Her voice cracked on the last words. "We've been staying in a shelter for the past week. It's not safe for Lily there, especially with Christmas coming." A shelter. The words echoed in my mind. The woman who had abandoned us, who had walked away from a perfectly good home, was now homeless. A cruel twist of fate, perhaps, but it didn't lessen the sting of her past actions. "And you thought of asterisk me?" I asked, a bitter laugh escaping my lips. "After 8 years, you come back to my asterisk doorstep, to the family you threw away." Her head dropped, her dark hair falling forward to shield her face. "I know I don't deserve it, David. I know I messed up, more than messed up, but I didn't know where else to go. You were always the good one, the responsible one. I thought maybe you could help just for a night or two, until I figure things out." The plea in her voice was undeniable, raw with desperation. I thought of Emily. Emily, who had gone through years of therapy to come to terms with her mother's abandonment. Emily, who was finally thriving, finally feeling secure. How would she react to seeing Sarah, and with another child no less? The thought alone made my stomach churn. I looked at Lily again. Her small hands clutched Sarah's coat tightly, her little nose was red from the cold, she shivered slightly. Regardless of Sarah's choices, this child was suffering. That innocent fact cut through my resolve. I couldn't just leave them out there in the cold 2 days before Christmas, not with a child involved. "Come in," I said, the words surprising even myself. My voice was clipped, my face a mask of stone. "But understand this, Sarah. This isn't for you. This is for her." I gestured vaguely towards Lily. Sarah looked up, her eyes wide with a mixture of relief and disbelief. "Thank you, David," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "Thank you." I stepped aside, allowing them to enter. The warmth of the house seemed to envelop them, and Lily's shivers visibly lessened. As they walked past me, I caught a faint scent of the old perfume Sarah used to wear, and for a split second I was transported back to a time when she was my whole world. I quickly pushed the memory away. Emily heard the commotion and came bounding down the stairs, a huge smile on her face. "Dad, who's here?" Her smile faltered as she saw Sarah. Her eyes, usually so bright, narrowed and her mouth formed a small, tight line. Then she saw Lily. Her gaze flickered between her mother and the unknown child. The air crackled with tension. "Mom," Emily whispered, her voice barely audible, a mixture of disbelief and hurt. Sarah looked at Emily, her face contorting with guilt and pain. "Emily." "My sweet girl," she choked out, reaching a hand towards her. Emily recoiled, taking a step back. "Don't touch me," she said, her voice small but firm, a strength I hadn't expected from her in that moment. "Who is she?" she demanded, pointing at Lily. This was it, the confrontation I had dreaded, the one that would inevitably tear open old wounds. "Emily, this is Sarah," I began, my voice careful, "and this is Lily." Sarah looked from Emily to Lily, then back to Emily, a silent apology in her eyes. "Emily, Lily is my daughter," she said softly. Emily's face crumpled. "Your daughter, but I'm your daughter." The pain in her voice was unbearable. Lily, sensing the hostility, began to whimper, hiding behind Sarah's leg again. The scene was heartbreaking. I knelt down beside Emily, wrapping an arm around her. "It's okay, Em. Let's go talk in the kitchen, all right?" I guided her away, leaving Sarah and Lily standing awkwardly in the entryway. In the kitchen, Emily's anger finally erupted. How could she, Dad? How could she just leave us and then have another kid and bring her here on Christmas? It's not fair. Tears streamed down her face, tears of anger and hurt that had been bottled up for years. I held her tight, letting her cry, letting her vent. "I know, sweetheart, I know it's not fair. Nothing about this is fair to you." After she had calmed down a bit, I explained what Sarah had told me about being kicked out, about the shelter. "She has nowhere to go, Em. And Lily is just a little girl, innocent in all of this. I couldn't leave them out in the cold." Emily wiped her eyes, her expression still stormy. "So she just gets to waltz back into our lives whenever it's convenient for her," she sniffled. "It's not convenient, Em. Believe me, this is anything but convenient," I said, trying to inject some rationality into the emotionally charged situation. "This is temporary, just for a few days until I can figure something out for them." We spent the rest of the evening in a state of tense truce. I set up a small air mattress in the guest room for Sarah and Lily. Emily refused to be in the same room as Sarah, and I didn't push it. She stayed in her room, playing music loud enough to drown out any sound from downstairs. I made a simple dinner, which Sarah and Lily ate mostly in silence. Lily, despite her initial shyness, was a sweet child. She had Sarah's eyes, but there was a quiet dignity about her, a resilience that surprised me. She kept looking at me with those big, solemn eyes as if seeking reassurance. I found myself softening towards her, despite my anger at her mother. That night after Lily was asleep, Sarah came to me in the living room. "I know you hate me, David," she began, her voice low. "And you have every right to. I was a terrible wife, a terrible mother. I regret it every single day." I just looked at her, my face expressionless. "What do you want me to say, Sarah? That it's all okay? That 8 years of pain and struggle just magically disappear because you're sorry now?" "No," she said, shaking her head. "I don't expect that. I wanted you to know how truly sorry I am. I was lost. I was selfish. I thought leaving would solve all my problems, that I'd find this grand adventure. Instead, I just found more problems and a lot of loneliness." She told me about her life after leaving. She'd gone to a different state, found a job, and met Lily's father. He seemed charming at first, but over time he became controlling, then abusive. He was the one who had kicked them out, leaving them with nothing. "I kept telling myself I'd come back for Emily one day," she confessed, tears welling in her eyes. "But I was too ashamed, too afraid. And then when Lily was born, it became even harder. I knew I couldn't bring her into your lives, into Emily's life, with all my baggage." I listened in silence, my mind churning. Her story was tragic, yes, but it didn't erase the years of pain she had inflicted on us. "And what about Emily?" I asked, my voice sharp. "Did you ever think about her, about what she went through growing up without a mother?" Sarah broke down then, sobbing uncontrollably. "Every single day, David. Every single day I pictured her, wondered how she was, if she was happy, if she hated me. And I knew she had every right to." She looked up at me, her eyes red and swollen. "I know there's nothing I can do to make up for it, nothing, but I want to try. I want to be a mother to Emily again. I want to be a part of her life." The words hit me like a ton of bricks. Be a mother again. After all this time, it was too much. It was asking for the impossible. Sarah, you don't just get to walk back into a child's life after 8 years of complete absence and expect to be a mother, I said, my voice rising. Emily has built a life without you. She's strong, she's amazing, and she doesn't need you to come in and disrupt that again. But she's my daughter too, Sarah pleaded. Lily needs her sister. They both need a family. The conversation spiraled, going nowhere. I finally told her to go to bed, that we would talk more in the morning after I'd had a chance to think. Christmas Eve arrived and the tension in the house was palpable. Emily was still upset, though she tried to be polite for my sake. She avoided Sarah, and though she was curious about Lily, she kept her distance. I tried to create some semblance of holiday cheer, putting on Christmas music, making hot chocolate, but the cloud of Sarah's presence hung heavy over us. I took Lily aside for a moment while Sarah was in the kitchen. "Hi, Lily," I said softly, crouching down to her level. "My name is David." Looked at me with those big eyes. "Hi. Are you excited for Christmas?" I asked, trying to break the ice. She nodded shyly. "Mommy said Santa knows where we are even though we moved." My heart ached for her innocence, for the precariousness of her situation. I wanted to help her genuinely, but helping her meant dealing with Sarah, and that was the hard part. Later that afternoon, I sat Emily down. "Emily," I began, "I know this is incredibly difficult, and I'm so proud of how strong you've been." She looked at me, her anger still simmering beneath the surface. "Dad, I don't want her here. I don't want Lily here. It's too confusing." "I understand that, honey," I said, "but Lily is an innocent little girl. She has nowhere else to go right now, and it's almost Christmas. We can't just throw them out." Emily was quiet for a moment. Then, with a sigh, she said, "Fine, but she doesn't get to be my mom again, and I don't want to talk about it." It wasn't a full acceptance, but it was a step. A fragile truce, at least for the holidays. That evening, I did something I never thought I would do. I called my parents and explained the situation. They were understandably shocked and angry. But my mother, with her endless capacity for compassion, said, "David, bring them here for Christmas dinner. It's Christmas. No one should be alone." I was surprised, but also relieved. It would be a neutral ground, and maybe, just maybe, the presence of family would help diffuse some of the tension. When I told Sarah, her eyes filled with tears again. "Your parents, they would let me come," she whispered, disbelief in her voice. "It's for Lily," I reiterated, making sure she understood. "And for Emily. My parents are good people. They understand it's a difficult situation." Christmas Day was a blur of emotions. My parents' house was decorated beautifully. The smell of roast turkey filled the air. My mother greeted Sarah with a polite but distant hug, and my father simply nodded, his expression grim. Emily stayed close to me, but she watched Lily from afar. Lily, overwhelmed by the new environment and the unfamiliar faces, clung to Sarah. During dinner, my mother, ever the peacemaker, tried to include Sarah and Lily in the conversation, asking Lily about her favorite toys and Sarah about her journey. Sarah answered hesitantly, her voice soft, her eyes constantly darting to Emily. Emily, for her part, was quiet, only speaking when directly addressed. After dinner, as we were opening presents, something shifted. Lily received a small, wrapped gift from my mother, a plush teddy bear. Her face lit up with pure joy, and she hugged the bear tightly. It was a simple, innocent moment, but it seemed to break through some of the ice. Emily, watching from across the room, gave a small, almost imperceptible smile. Then, as if on impulse, Emily walked over to Lily, holding out one of her own gifts. "Here," she said, her voice a little shy. "This is for you too." It was a coloring book and a brand new set of crayons. Lily's eyes widened. "For me?" Emily nodded. "Merry Christmas." The two girls, once strangers, shared a small, hesitant smile. It was a fragile connection, but a connection nonetheless. Sarah watched the interaction, tears silently streaming down her face. In that moment, I saw a genuine repentance in her, a deep regret for the family she had shattered and the joy she had missed. Later that evening, after we had returned home, Emily came to me. "Dad," she said, her voice softer than it had been in days, "Lily seems nice." "She is, Em," I agreed. "She's a sweet kid." Do you think we could help them?" she asked, her gaze distant. "Really help them?" I looked at my daughter, my heart swelling with pride. Despite everything, despite all the pain, she still had such a kind and compassionate heart. "What do you mean, honey?" "I mean," she hesitated, "Mom said she wants to be a better mom. Maybe we could give her a chance for Lily's sake, and then maybe for mine too. My breath hitched in my throat. I had spent 8 years building up walls trying to protect us from Sarah, and now my own daughter, the one most hurt by Sarah's actions, was asking me to tear them down. "Are you sure, Em?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. "This is a big decision," she nodded slowly. "I think so. It would be hard, but she's my mom, and Lily is my sister. We're family, right?" Her words echoed in my mind. We're family. It was true, messed up, broken, but still family. I realized then that my anger, though justified, was also a burden. Holding on to it was hurting me, and in a way it was hurting Emily too. If Emily, after all she'd been through, could find it in her heart to forgive, or at least to offer a chance, then who was I to refuse? The next morning, on Boxing Day, I sat down with Sarah. "Sarah," I began, "Emily and I have been talking." She looked at me, her face pale, bracing herself for bad news. "We're willing to help you, but there are conditions." Her eyes widened. "Anything, David, anything." "First," I said, "this is not a free ride. You need to find a job quickly, you need to contribute, and you need to start paying me back for the cost of living." She nodded vigorously. "Yes, absolutely, I will." "Second," I continued, "you need to go to therapy. Both individual therapy to deal with your own issues and family therapy with Emily. You have a lot of explaining to do to her, a lot of healing to work through. And I'll be there every step of the way to make sure Emily's needs are put first." She nodded, tears starting to form in her eyes again. "I will, I promise. I want to do this, David, for Emily, for Lily, for us." "And third," I said, my voice firm, "you need to understand that this is a long road. Trust is not something that is easily rebuilt after 8 years of absence. It will take time, effort, and consistent proof that you're committed. If you ever, for 1 second, show any sign of abandoning us again, you're out. For good." She looked at me, her eyes full of a mixture of gratitude, fear, and determination. "I understand, David, I truly do, and I will work every single day to earn your trust back, to earn Emily's trust back." It wasn't an easy decision. It wasn't a quick fix. It was a monumental risk, a leap of faith into the unknown. But looking at Emily, seeing the hope in her eyes, and looking at Lily, seeing the innocent trust in hers, I knew it was the right thing to do. It wasn't about me anymore. It was about creating a path for two sisters to connect, and for a fractured family to, perhaps, begin to heal. The road ahead would be incredibly difficult. There would be setbacks, arguments, and moments of doubt. But for the first time in 8 years, standing there with Sarah and our two daughters, a tiny flicker of hope ignited within me. Maybe, just maybe, this Christmas miracle wasn't about forgiveness alone, but about the possibility of a new beginning, a chance to rebuild something stronger from the ashes of our past. It's been a few months now since that Christmas. Sarah found a part-time job and is actively looking for full-time work. She started therapy, and Emily and her have had their first few sessions of family therapy. It's hard, messy, and emotional, but they're talking. Emily is slowly, cautiously opening up to Sarah and to Lily. Lily has blossomed, her shyness slowly giving way to a cheerful, inquisitive nature. She and Emily are still navigating their relationship, but I often catch them giggling together or sharing secrets. It's not perfect. It's far from it. There are still moments of anger and doubt, especially from me. But seeing Emily smile, truly smile at her mother, seeing the two girls bond, it makes me believe that maybe, just maybe, we did the right thing. It's a work in progress, a testament to the fact that healing isn't linear, and families can come in all shapes and sizes, even the most unexpected ones. It taught me that sometimes the hardest choices lead to the most profound growth, and that even after years of darkness, there can still be light. So tell me, was I wrong for what I did? Did I make the right decision opening my door to my ex-wife and her daughter? I'm still figuring it all out myself, but I truly believe that at the heart of it, it was about compassion and about giving my daughters a chance at a fuller, albeit complicated, family. Like this video if you were on my side, and if you believe in second chances, even when they're incredibly difficult. Subscribe for more stories like this, where real-life dramas unfold and leave us all questioning what we would do. And please, share your final thoughts on this whole mess in the comments section below. I'll see you all in the next story.